Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone, or good now, depending on where you are. This is Introduction to Quantum Human Design. So, we're going to talk today about quantum human design, and I'm going to give you all a little bit of information about what we do here at Quantum Human Design and the Quantum Alignment System. So nice to have you all here. I've got a lot of information that I want to cover with you. I have a presentation for you. We're going to talk about a lot of things human design. And as I'm going through the material, you should have with this material a little note sheet. And in that note sheet is PDF fillable. So you can actually fill out that note sheet while we're going along. That's going to be for a good benefit for you, just to help you integrate the information that we're going to be talking about. So we're going to be exploring a lot of different ideas and thoughts and insights about human design. It's funny, as I was preparing for the presentation and really thinking about, well, what do I want to say today? So before I logged on, I've been thinking a lot about Ra Uru Hu, who was my human design teacher. And for those of you who know human design, Ra Uru Hu was the creator of traditional human design. And next January, I will have been teaching human design for as long as Ra did. And that's not about me versus Ra at all, because there's no me versus Ra at all. But I've been thinking about him a lot because, I had a very interesting relationship with Ra that was kind of a love-hate relationship. I definitely have a deep awe and just gratitude for everything that I learned from him. And I really had to push against some of the things that he taught because it was very different than my own value system. And I've been contemplating a lot lately about how correct that is, because we're supposed to find our own path in learning human design and integrating our own story about who we are and deciding who we are as part of human design. So it's been kind of a fun contemplation. But the thing that I wanted to share with you all, and I think we talk about this a little bit, but I want to bring us back to this before we get rolling. Here's the thought. Ra taught that in 1987, when he received the information about human design, that he received it in consciousness, meaning it was his job to translate the information into the earth experience. But he said, we all got it. It was in the neutrino stream, and we all got it inside of ourselves. So there are a lot of you out here who feel drawn or called or interested or curious about human design, or when you saw your chart, there was something in you that you recognized. How many of you put in chat? How many of you maybe had that experience? When I used to teach human design at expos, way pre-COVID, way before even like pre-COVID, people would see the body graph. I had a big sheet with a big, sign with the body graph on it. And people would see that sign and they would just cry, and they would know why they were crying, but they just felt like there's something about this that I need to know, or that I know about it. And when I first started studying human design, it was a little bit weird for me because I was not woo-woo in the beginning of my journey with human design. It was a little disconcerting to me that I really never had to learn it. I already knew it when I started learning about the gates and the chart and the channels and the parts of the chart. It wasn't new to me. And some of you may have had that experience too. Learning how to integrate the chart and tell the story of the chart, that was a skill set. And actually, Ra even said, and what I was reading today, because I was reviewing all of the old material that I have that you can't get this material anymore. He was saying how the mechanics of human design was revealed to him, but how to use it wasn't. So he never got this is what you use it for. He just got the mechanics, and it wasn't his job to. It wasn't his job to figure out how to use it. It was his job to teach the system. So I love that, because I think, as we begin today, that many of you here on this call are here not just because you want to learn human design or you feel called to understand human design or your chart, But many of you are here because you're exploring how to use human design. That was always my question when I first started learning human design in 2000. Even before I really had the full training, I was like, how are we going to use this? What are we going to do with it? You know, my background is a therapeutic background. I'm a nurse by training. I was a life coach by training. I was an energy medicine practitioner by training. And I wanted to know, how are we going to take this information and do something with it? Because just looking at the chart wasn't enough for me. And so I want to share with you all today, as we go through this material, some of the ways that we teach the how of human design in conjunction with the what is human design. Okay, I just have to stop because somebody wants to do a Vulcan mind meld with me and get my human design knowledge. I don't want you to do that. I want you to get your own version of human design. You really don't want to do a Vulcan mind meld with my mind. It would be scary. So, all right. So we're going to talk about using archetypes to heal the world. Sorry, to heal the body. Heal the body. We heal the world too. The mind and the spirit, and of course, the world. My name, in case you're new to me and you're new to our community, my name is Karen Curry Parker. I am the founder and the creator of Quantum Human Design and the Quantum Alignment System. I am a multiple best-selling author, mostly of human design books, although I have one book that's not a human design book, but mostly human design books. My books have been published all over the world about human design, and I'm really proud of that. I am an EFT, the Emotional Freedom Techniques practitioner. I've been one since 2000 when Gary Craig first started teaching people how to do EFT. I went to the very first EFT conference. I've been a life coach since 1998. I actually trained with Thomas Leonard, considered by many to be the father of life coaching. I am a student of Ra Uru Hu. I have been teaching human design since 1999. I am a Quantum University PhD student. I am very proud to report that I finished my dissertation this week. So all I have left to do is to defend my dissertation. I'm also a guest lecturer at Quantum University. I am a TEDx presenter. You can go to TED.com and find my talk on burnout if you just search my name. And I'm very proud of a podcast that I have called the Quantum Revolution Podcast. You can find it on all kinds of podcast platforms. It's a collection of interviews with some of the world's top thought leaders on evolution, and I hope you enjoy it if you go find it. So we're going to talk about who is human design for. We're going to talk about today the dilemma of human design and why it actually matters. We're going to talk about traditional human design and quantum human design and why you actually need to know both. We're going to talk about the science of conditioning and deconditioning. And I'm going to give you then at the end an overview of the quantum human design professional training and why, when you learn about quantum human design, you not only help yourself, your families, and your clients, but you also help evolve and change the world. So we'll start with our first contemplation. Who is the quantum human design certification training for? Really, there's two kinds of people that we tend to train who are drawn to our training. So the first person is somebody who wants to study quantum human design more deeply. You're sick of watching YouTube videos. You're sick of trying to figure it out from a book. You've read enough, but you know enough to know that you don't know as much as you'd really like to know, and you really just want to go deep into learning more for yourself, for your friends, for your family, and for fun, because it is fun. Or the second kind of person that's drawn to our training and belongs to our school are people who want to build or scale a quantum human design business or have a side stream of income. So we have people who really just want to use human design to make a little bit of money on the side. And we have people who work really hard or work really smart, I should say, to build or scale a quantum human design business. So these are the two kinds of people who generally are drawn to our training. Let's talk a little bit about traditional human design and quantum human design, what they are, and why you need to know both. So, as I said, I've been thinking a lot about Ra Uru Hu. This is a picture of Ra on the bottom right here. And if you don't know the history of traditional human design is a revealed study. It was received or channeled, depending on what words you like to use, We say received because back in the day when we first started teaching, people weren't as woo-woo 25 years ago as they are now. Now you all are just woo-woo. So I can say channeled and everybody knows what that is. But human design was received by a man named Ra Uru on the island of Ibiza, Spain. He spent 8 days receiving this transmission from an entity that he called the Voice. And he spent many, 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 many years after that experience, the rest of his life, teaching, unpacking, processing, debriefing, if you will, from this download that he got during the supernova 1987A. So I don't think this picture is actually a picture of supernova 1987A. I think this is a nebula of some sort. But Ra Uru got this information in January of 1987. And as I said in the beginning, he received it and it was his job to be the messenger to share the system with the world. But as he used to always say, we all got it. It's in all of us. And in 1987, we all received it in the neutrino stream, which is a stream of information that hits the planet. And in traditional human design, we talk about how the neutrino stream actually activates your human design chart. Now, if you look and you go back to the original teachings of Ra Uru, and not just the teachings, but Ra used to say this all the time. Ra taught that traditional human design is the first step in understanding human design. Traditional human design is designed to wake up what he called the not self, meaning when you are living your life and you have experiences from your family of origin, when you are internalizing formulas about success and how you should be in the world, when you learn through various different experiences that you have in the world that it's not okay or safe for you to be who you are or how you are, and when you experience energy, particularly in the open parts of your chart, then you learn to live out a facade. We'll call it the not self. So Ra used to teach that the not self, what he called the not self, the conditioned self, is the person you think you are, but you're probably not. And that traditional human design, as it's written, is actually a tool to help you discover who you're not so that you can then discover who you are. So it's a really powerful tool to help you learn to live true to your original blueprint. And as I said, because the way that Ra taught it, with the intention that Ra taught it, that traditional human design is designed to wake you up, is designed to, actually Ra used to teach, is a tool that you use to shatter people. You shatter people's perception of who they think they are so that they can become who they're not. The system itself, because it's just designed to wake people up, and Ra said he isn't done teaching it yet, it's really not complete. Ra used to teach that someday he would write an awakened version of human design, a version of human design that would speak to the person who was deconditioned, a version of human design that would speak to somebody who's gone through that process of untangling themselves from a story of who they're not, and a person who has lived according to who they really are. Ra never got to write that part of human design. He passed in 2011, so he never got to write what he wanted to call the Awakened Ray of I Ching. One of the things that Ra taught and traditional human design teaches is that we have no choice. That basically, and Ra, I have a quotation from Ra somewhere that says, basically, you get what you get, right? You live true to who you are. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee you'll have money. There's no guarantee things will work out right for you. You'll just be living true to yourself, and that should be enough. The problem with this doctrine that he called no choice, he loved it and he taught it all the time. We have no choice. I have no choice. We have no choice. The problem with no choice is that it's actually not scientifically valid. We actually do have choice. And in fact, in a way, it doesn't make sense that a system that's comprised of Eastern and Western astrology, which is all about looking at archetypes and exploring how to live out the highest potential of your life. A system that's comprised of the Chinese I Ching. And if you're familiar with the Chinese I Ching, That's a system that's all about choice, right? You choose. The stories of the Chinese I Ching are all about helping the evolved man or the conscious man make a conscious evolved choice, right? We talk about the high elements and the low elements of the hexagrams in the Chinese I Ching. The Hindu chakra system is all about awareness so that you can step ultimately off the wheel of karma, that you start to see the patterns of your life and you learn to get off that wheel so you're not living those patterns out anymore. That's choice. And the the Judaic Kabbalah is all about choice. Kabbalah is all about what we call in Hebrew, we say Bahira points, choice points. And every experience you have in life is a Bahira point. You have a choice, and you are constantly in a position of deliberately choosing to act in greater alignment with your source definition, your God self, right? So it doesn't make sense that a system that's a synthesis of all these esoteric, ancient, modern wisdom teachings that are rooted in choice, the system or the synthesis of all those systems would suddenly say no choice. We don't have choice when we're conditioned. We don't have choice when we're conditioned. If you sit where you are right now and lovingly and gently and honestly assess your life, you are where you are today as a sum total or a total of every decision you've ever made. Every decision you've ever made has brought you to where you are right now. Now, lucky for you, you're making good decisions because you're here today. But our choices, the choices we make about our lives create, right? And when we don't understand what's influencing our choices, in other words, when we don't understand how the story we tell about who we are is influencing our perception and what we create in life, then no, we don't have choice. We have no choice. We are literally simply reacting to life. The idea of no choice is the beginning of understanding how you've been conditioned. You start to be able to forgive yourself for the choices that you've made because you didn't know any better. You were conditioned. You weren't aware of who you are. You weren't aware of your power. You weren't aware of your value. You weren't aware of the importance of your authentic self. So the choices you made weren't really conscious or deliberate. If traditional human design as it's taught is not complete, and it has built into it a big, wide doctrine around not just no choice, but another doctrine around the importance of waiting, we wait in traditional human design because one very important thing, we wait because we need to heal. When we first encounter human design and we start to discover who you're not and how you've been living a story that's not actually your story and how you've been choosing without consciousness, without awareness, sometimes to get to the next level in your evolution, you have to stop everything. You have to stop all that frenetic figuring it out stuff that we tend to do. You have to stop all those places where you've made decisions based on your denying your own value, based on you not living in alignment with the true story of who you are. Traditional human design type strategy and authority is really a healing prescription. And it has built into it a lot of waiting because we're born wise. We're born deeply connected to source. We're born with innate, authentic, creative power. But when we get conditioned, we lose our connection to that. We lose the connection to the cadence of divine inspiration in our head. We forget what the whisperings of life's intelligence sound like. And so we have to stop and wait so that we can reconnect with the wisdom of our bodies, we can reconnect with the sound of the voice of God inside of us. We can reconnect with our authentic creativity and remember who we are. So traditional human design, as it's taught, is actually an incredibly important part of the awakening process, of the healing process, of the deconditioning process. But part of what happened for me personally, as a person who was teaching and using human design, is I started to see that my clients were showing up, and they were showing up already having done a lot of work. Human design, traditional human design was never designed to be a permanent lifestyle. It's a prescription for healing. It's also not scientifically current. I'll get into that in just a minute. So here's what I wanted to say before I go on to the next little piece. Traditional human design is a great tool to help us learn how to heal. In my practice, I started to see people coming in who had already done a lot of healing work. They'd been to therapy. They'd been doing energy medicine. They'd been meditating. They'd been doing yoga. They'd been actively involved in that deconditioning process without human design oftentimes. And when they started to come into the human design community or the human design teachings, a lot of times what they were discovering is that they loved it. They could see that there was merit to it, but it wasn't enough. They needed something bigger, something juicier to really help them define not who they weren't, the not self. They kind of were clear about the not self, but they really needed to know who they are. What's the bigger story of who I am? What's the spiritual story? What's the cosmic story? And so my exploration in how to answer and support those questions from those particular clients became the seed that gave birth to quantum human design. But before I talk to you about quantum human design, I want to give you just a little bit more of a background of what I'm talking about and why I got to the perspective that I got to with quantum human design. So I'm going to break down for you the basic components of what I call quantum creativity. And I'm going to show you how and why the story you tell about who you are is so important in influencing what and how you create, and why, when you understand this process, you actually have a ton of choice. You have a lot of choice. You have free will. You have the ability to consciously build quantum fields of information that then manifest in your physical reality as the life you want to be living, the life you're choosing to create. So in the beginning, no, you don't have choice because you're conditioned. But ultimately, when you decondition, you start to have a lot of choice. You start to awaken that innate creative power that is you. And you start to be able to literally create from an authentic, aligned place the life you were born to live. So I'm going to break down for you, first and foremost, the parts of the creative equation so that we can start looking at, well, how do you actually work with these parts? How do you put this equation together to consciously manifest what you choose in your own life? So the first part of this equation is what's called the quantum field. Sometimes you might hear it referred to as the unmanifest reality. This is basically a non-manifest, it's not physical, a non-manifest body of information that's filled with innumerable, infinite potentials. So right now, as you're listening to me, if you're on your phone or your iPad or whatever, right now you are sitting in a quantum field that is filled with infinite potentials for your life. Anything and everything you can think of and way more lives in this field of pure potential. The second part of the creative equation is called the mental and the emotional body. So you have basically a filter that carries all your memories, the artifacts of your of all your emotional experiences. You have ancestral programming, you have your genetic code. Everything that makes up the story of who you are lives in this mental, emotional body. In conjunction with that, you have another part of your creative being called the subtle body. So you have actually an energetic template that's holding in place everything that you're in the process of either creating or discreating in your life right now. Sometimes we refer to this as your aura or your energy field. If you've ever done energy healing, this is the level at which most energy healing happens. If you've ever used homeopathics or flower essences, this is the level at which those kinds of subtle body therapeutic modalities operate. They work on the subtle body. They work on the template of what's holding your physical reality in place. Last but not least is your manifested reality. That's your life right now. So if we were going to make it into a nice, simple image, it would look something like this. Right now, you're sitting in this quantum field of infinite possibilities, experiencing your life right now. The thing that's influencing which of those infinite possibilities you're manifesting into your world right now is your filter. You have a filter that's choosing. If you're conditioned, that filter is choosing unconsciously. If you've deconditioned, then you are able to deliberately and intentionally install into this filter what you want to have in this filter as part of your story that's going to influence consciously what do you choose to manifest in your physical material life right now. If you want to take control over the manifesting process, the point of control is in this filter. It's in taking back control over the story you tell about who you are. So you are the story you tell about yourself. Literally, the story you tell about yourself is what's manifesting in your life, literally and also metaphorically. So if you have something going on in your life that you don't like right now, I invite you to look at it with curiosity and start thinking, what is this a metaphor for? And how is that maybe living in my story? And is there something in my story I need to rewrite so that this metaphor goes away? Right? So quantum physicists, when they look at the quantum field, that infinite field of potential, quantum physicists can either measure the movement of quantum particles or the location of quantum particles, but never both at the same time. The minute a quantum physicist has an expectation about where a quantum particle is going to show up, well, that's where it shows up, and that's where they see it, and that's where it actually drops out of movement and potential and actually becomes physical and manifested. You can either, as I said, measure the movement or the location, but never both at the same time. Movement, non-manifested quantum particles, are pure potential. Location is manifestation. The expectations that we have about a location, in other words, the meanings that we have about where we think a quantum particle is going to show up, determines where and how it manifests. So meaning is what determines what we manifest. Okay. Meaning is determined by your conditioning field. And if you want to create a different state of well-being in your life, you have to change the meanings that you have. And certainly this is part of what I teach in quantum human design. I give you the skills to be able to look at the chart and to explore how are you conditioned? How are you conditioned? Where have you internalized formulas that don't fit? Where have you internalized the story that it's not okay for you to be who you are and how you are? And then I teach you how to help people rewrite that story. I teach you how to help people reframe the meanings that they have about the parts of their chart so that they can deliberately and consciously, with great choice, create a different state of well-being in their lives. Or you can do it, of course, for your own self as well. So what does this mean? It means our perception of the world determines what we create, and it determines the potentials that we actually activate in the quantum field. So we're going to do a little exercise. I want you to take a few moments. I'll give you 30 seconds. I don't have a timer with me, but I'll kind of guess. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. I want you to think about the word serve, to serve. I want you to think about the word to serve. And as you think about what does it mean to you to serve, I want you to put your answer in chat. Okay? I want you to put your answer in chat. So what does it mean to you to serve? I'll give you 30 seconds-ish. Okay. So some of you said serving means to teach, to contribute, to help others, to be worthy, to help, share your gifts, give your time to help live, bring gifts to the collective, support, help facilitate. To serve is to put action into motion, to help other people, to subscribe to future events that are for the highest and best good of myself and those around me, to be of service to others, to be of service, to help others, to present my real self, to be available to others, to connect. You guys are awesome. These are all amazing perceptions of the word to serve, to give yourself for others, to use your gifts, to help guide, to do others, to shine, to provide, to give. Wow. Awesome. Well, I'm pretty humbled to be on this call with you all. You all have a very beautiful definition of what it means to serve. That's really cool. So thank you for sharing that. Now, to serve is an archetype. It has a specific meaning, right? Which is basically to take care of someone else. But it's an archetype that has a lot of different meanings, right? When we think of the word martyr, that's a variation of the word to serve, right? We die for somebody else's cause, right? That's martyrdom. Sometimes codependency can be a shadow element of service, right? And of course, all of you all are here serving in your highest level, thinking about how can you make a contribution to others and to the world and lift the world up and shift the frequency of the planet. Yeah, you guys. Um, so I wanted to illuminate this for you because I want you to see that something as simple as what one word like serve or creativity or money or soulmate, that these singular words are laden with meanings, personal meanings in your own story. They're very personal meanings. And those meanings are influencing what you're creating in relation to those archetypes, right? So if you're struggling with money, let's say, sometimes we struggle with money because the meanings we have around money and all the things related to money, like self-worth and value, are not good meanings. They're not abundant meanings. Maybe I won't say they're not good, but they're not abundant meanings. And we have to rewrite that story around abundance and money in order to create more. So good. All right. All right, let's talk about what just happened here. You saw the word serve. When you saw the word serve, that stimulated a photon storm in your brain. That's a storm of light. That photon storm in turn caused your brain to produce, in y'all's case, very high quality neurotransmitters that created a specific emotional response in accordance with whatever meanings you have around the words. That emotional response in turn calibrated your heart into a state of coherence, or if you had meanings that weren't so abundant, non-coherence. In a state of coherence, you are highly creative. You are open-hearted, literally. Your immune function actually gets elevated, and you are occupying and living and creating from a higher state of well-being. Now, oftentimes when we're working with our clients and we give them meanings, words, stories or they're sharing with us their story, they're very obviously sharing with us also stories that are kicking them into a state of non-coherence. They feel anxious. They feel in fight or flight. They're not able to access highly creative states and even, of course, states of well-being. So part of what we do when we start to give people a new story, if we use the vocabulary of human design and we start to teach people, this is who you're not, this is who you thought you were, but it's not you. And we start giving them bigger, better words beyond traditional human design that say, this is who you were born to be. This is your quantum purpose, your cosmic purpose. This is your spiritual purpose, and this is what you're here to build towards. This is your soul curriculum that you're evolving as part of your life story. And we start to support people in being able to step into the fulfillment of that story. What we do is we start to change the meanings. We start to change their brain chemistry. We start to change the way their emotional responses calibrate their heart. And we start to help them create a more consistent connection with heart authority, life's intelligence, heart intelligence, emotional intelligence, higher states of well-being in every area of their lives. They feel better, they live better, they know how to implement their human design consciously to create infinite numbers of choices in their lives, choices that can move them towards the fulfillment of the full potential of who they are. All right. If your story creates your reality, then of course you have to ask, who are you? And that's of course what we do when we work with our clients or we're exploring our own chart. We're asking ourselves, who are you? Who are you really? And what's the story you're telling about yourself? And how have you been conditioned? And what do you need to do to rewrite that story so that conditioning doesn't run the show? So that you don't let that conditioning rob you of your choice. So if you like the story you're telling, keep telling it. If you want a better story, keep exploring, keep reframing, keep rewriting, and of course, keep studying human design, because really what human design gives us is a systematic approach, archetype by archetype, type, lines the profiles, centers, gates, channels, circuits. Human design gives us a very systematic way to sort through all of the parts of our story so that we can start looking at those parts and consciously evolving our meanings around those key parts so that ultimately in the end of exploring our chart or in the end of working with someone who helps us explore our chart, we're able to take back sovereignty, take back control over our story, and tell the story of our own choosing. Reclaim our natural, authentic creativity and live the life we were born to live. So when we work with people in the quantum human design training, one of the things that we talk about a lot is the science of conditioning and the science of reconditioning. So I shared with you all that, sorry, hold on, I've got to take this off. I'm very warm. I shared with you all that that I just completed my dissertation this week. I have not defended my dissertation. It's literally still being proofread. But one of the things that I want to share with you is the science of storytelling and narrative and deconditioning. What I looked at in my research was people's immune response, IgG and IgE response, and how immune response was influenced by memory and storytelling. So I had people tell the story of what I'll call a negative memory. They told the story out loud of something bad that had happened to them. When people shared a negative memory, a memory that triggered negative emotions such as anger or disempowerment or victimhood or grief or sadness or shock, when they told these stories, we measured their IgG and IgE response. What we learned is that when people remember an incident or a story that triggers negative emotions, it actually decreases immune response. That's already really powerful. The next part of the study that I did is I had people go back then and retell that story with a different quality of insight and memory. Basically, I had them rewrite that story so that at the end of that story, they emerged the hero in that story. They were no longer victims. They learned from whatever experience they had. And when they retold that story, even if they didn't believe it yet, because eventually if you tell the story enough, you start to believe it. Even if they didn't believe it yet, it actually increased immune response. So when we start deconditioning and start telling a better story, even if we don't believe it yet, it impacts the quality of our physical response it increases our physical resilience. We'll call it that. So when we look at the science of conditioning and reconditioning or deconditioning, I think that's supposed to say deconditioning, not reconditioning, because we're not going to recondition you. What we know is that the science of deconditioning has made exponential leaps in the last 13 years. I think it's really important when we think about Ra and the contribution that Ra made with his teachings about human design, that Ra died before the science of epigenetics really hit the mainstream. So when Ra passed, he still was really probably still buying into the idea that your genetics are fixed. We now know that a lot of our gene expression is highly malleable, and that we can even be pre-wired for certain diseases. And if we make certain lifestyle choices and attitudinal shifts, we can actually not manifest those diseases that are encoded in our genes, right? We know that the brain is highly plastic. A lot of this new research on neuroplasticity and how we think and how we react to the world didn't come out until after Ra passed. So there's a lot of new and really, really exciting science that's come out since Ra passed about deconditioning and how to accelerate and consciously work with the deconditioning process. I teach in my quantum human design training that there are 5 kinds of conditioning. So traditional human design teaches that you get conditioned in your open centers. Wherever you have openness is where you take in energy and information from the world around you. And when you take that energy in, you amplify it. And because you experience that energy in an amplified way, you oftentimes mistakenly think that energy belongs to you, even though you actually received it from someone else. The second kind of conditioning that we have to look at is we have to understand that people get imprinted. That's neurobiology. That's not human design. That's just physical biology. That we know that when children are around certain behaviors, certain attitudes, certain ways of talking, certain states of resiliency as part of their conditioning matrix, the marinade that they're soaking in as they grow up, that they're imprinted. We are imprinted by the way our parents or our family of origin behaved. We know from human design that there are actually generational energy patterns. You actually inherit your human design from your grandparents. And if you are lucky enough to have children, your children inherit their design from your parents. And so you start to see that there is a soul curriculum built into family energy patterns that invite us to break free from these energy patterns and stop repeating these patterns every other generation. We also know, as I said, that our genetics, and in particular that our ancestral lineage, particularly if we have trauma in our ancestral lineage, and by the way, this goes back up to 14 generations, so the odds are pretty high we all have trauma in our generational lineage somewhere, that when we have trauma in our ancestral lineage, it can actually impact the protein codes that regulate certain genes in our body, and that our genetics and the expression of the genetics in our body can be influenced by our ancestral lineage. And of course, we don't talk about this enough, our own life experiences outside of our human design, because human design doesn't explain everything. Okay, I get people sometimes who say, can you look at this chart and explain to me why my ex-husband said this terrible thing that he said? And I'm like, nope, that's not in the chart. Some things are not explained in the chart. And there's a lot of mystery. I mean, I think we also have to say some things are just mysterious. We don't know the answer. We don't necessarily have control over what happens to us, but we definitely have control over how we choose to create from it. And our life experiences definitely condition us, and definitely sometimes can strengthen that internalization of the idea that it's not okay for you to be who you are or how you are. That's not true, but that's how it feels sometimes, right? So as I said, we have no choice when we're conditioned, but when we decondition, we learn how to put human design into action. Then we learn to activate infinite choice. Okay. So what I did after I started getting all these clients that were coming to me around 2009, 2010, and I had already left traditional human design, I started to think, maybe it's time to start looking at evolving the language. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. I didn't know Ra was going to die in 2011. So I waited. I was like, okay, Ra's going to tell us the next step. He's going to tell us what's the new word, what is the new vocabulary, what's the new way of talking about human design. But he passed. He passed in 2011, and that second part of the human design teaching never got revealed through Ra. So I sat with that for a lot of years. And I started very quietly experimenting and exploring, changing the way that I teach human design, integrating the information that I had about quantum physics and choosing, the science of deconditioning and reprogramming the body and the body's response, and deconditioning and human design. I started to look at frequencies of energy and how energy impacted the body. And I started very slowly through this process of rewriting this vocabulary, taking all the words of traditional human design and really redefining all that language. I took all the vocabulary of traditional human design. I took a big, giant thesaurus. I flipped through the thesaurus, picked words that I thought might be better words. I literally took these words into a lab. I tested these words by speaking them and measuring the frequency of the words, and over time built this new vocabulary in human design that is an intentional collection of high frequency language that is a redefinition of traditional human design that I call quantum human design. So traditional human design, remember, is a healing prescription tool. You need to know how to use traditional human design with your clients or with yourself if you're just starting out. You need to understand the prescriptive strength and importance of following type and strategy and understanding your type and your strategy and your authority. That's you can't skip that step, even if you're a manifesting generator. But once you complete that step, then you have to look at, okay, if I'm not this, who am I? Quantum human design is that bigger exploration around, well, if I'm not this, who am I? And it gives us a new vocabulary to work with people to help them consciously construct for themselves a story, a narrative that changes their point of creation in their life, that helps them recover their authentic creativity and allows them to step into a very powerful expression of total choice, freedom to consciously create the life they deserve. So quantum design gives us a way of changing a personal narrative. It gives us kind of, I like to call it a Rolodex. That's really dating me. I guess I'll call it a database of the parts of the story of your life. it really gives us a way of speaking to not just your life purpose, but your soul curriculum. Why are you here? What are you here to learn? What is the thing that you're here to give the world? And I like to call it the interface between you and your muse. You can call it God, you can call it the quantum field, you can call it source, whatever you call it, but it is the interface for how you connect with that bigger purpose, that juicier spiritual meaning of your life. So if we go back to this, remember that when we're telling the story of who we are, that acts as a filter. When we decondition and we condition ourselves, or we align ourselves with our authentic self, then all of a sudden we unlock ourselves and our ability to have infinite choice, complete and total influence over what we choose, consciously choose out of the quantum field, and what we end up creating in our lives right now. All right. So let's just review this. I'm like so ahead of myself here. So all of the systems in human design, the I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, Kabbalah, quantum physics, they all contain archetypes. And just a really quick review, an archetype is an idea or a symbol or a pattern or a character type in a story. Your chart is just a collection of these archetypes, right? Your chart's just comprised of all these different ancient and modern archetypes that are part of your chart. This is actually a word cloud that I made of all the names of the gates in my chart. I think that's a really fun thing to do. You should go do that. If you when we're done with this, you should go there's like all kinds of word cloud apps. Go make a word cloud out of the names of the gates in your chart. It's pretty cool. Archetypes are neutral, right? They're just potentials. They manifest in our lives depending on the meanings that we have. We can express the low expression of the archetype or the high expression of the archetype. So if we think of the archetype of hermit, a hermit in the low expression is somebody who hides away forever, right? And they're alone, and they're in their houses in the middle of 10 acres of woods, and they fall and they can't get up and they die alone, right? That's like the shadow of the hermit archetype. In a more modern expression, the shadow of the hermit archetype might be a new mama who has a baby, who lives far away from friends and family, who maybe she's a second line profile and she needs alone time to regenerate. And she can't have that because she has a new baby and she's not feeling supported. And so that could be the shadow element of the archetype of the hermit. We know that if she changed her meanings, possibly, that if she shifted maybe her own internal sense of value and her ideas of deserving to be supported, that she might make a different set of choices around having support. She might decide, hey, I really need to get somebody to come into the house once a week and hold the baby and like be a nanny for a day so that I can have a day a week to fill my own cup, to recharge my own batteries so I can go back and be a better mama, right? That might be another way of making a different set of choices if she changed the story a little bit. So if she's living in that story of I'm all alone, nobody cares for me, I don't deserve to hire somebody because I'm not making any money. If that's her story, then she might not create that support. But if she shifts that story, right? If she consciously chooses to write that story from the perspective of I'm valuable, the work I'm doing is inherently precious, this child needs me to be my best, I need to take care of myself so I can show up for this child, she might choose something different, right? When we start taking control over those archetypes, all those parts of our chart, we start to consciously make a different set of choices. I know I'm beating this message home probably pretty valiantly and pretty vehemently, but I want to really help you understand that one of the things if you're going to learn to do human design and you don't learn how to help people consciously choose, you're not fulfilling the full potential of the system. You're only doing part of what the system is designed to do. You're helping people learn how to figure out why they're not choosing. And that's important, but you have to have that next step if you're really going to use human design as a therapeutic tool. If you're going to use human design as a tool to really coach people and help people figure out why it's not working, they need to understand how did I get here? But you also have to help them figure out, how do I get to where I really want to be going? And that's what we offer people in our quantum human design training. So one of the things we do in quantum human design is we teach people how to activate their natural, authentic state of creativity. We move them from situational creativity to fundamental creativity. In other words, when your clients come to you, for most of us, when our clients come to us, or this might be you too, if you're in the beginning of your own story, When you are in situational creativity, you're living in the moment, you are reactive. Situational creativity is determined by what's happened to you up until this point, right? Oftentimes we're reacting based on our conditioning. It offers short term solutions. It's finite. It comes from the conditioned mind. It's the result of thinking and reasoning, figuring things out. That doesn't always work, right? And being reasonable. When we help people decondition and take back control over their story, we move them into a state of fundamental creativity. This is a state of creativity that transcends conditioning. Some of you have experienced this before. And if post in chat if you want to, how many of you have had an epiphany, like especially in the shower, where you're like in the shower and all of a sudden like, oh, I get it, right? That's fundamental creativity. Sometimes it leapfrogs over our conditioning, thank God, right? It comes from infinite source or life's intelligence, or you can put the word God in there if you want to. It's imaginative and possibility oriented. It aligns with cosmic order, and it is oftentimes really unreasonable. If you, especially for those of you who have a defined sacral, you've probably had that experience where you've gone, and you're like, what did I just say yes to, right? But you know it's the right answer because it feels so good in your body. So when we're working with clients, we have a couple of problems that we will help them tackle. The first problem that most of our clients show up with is, how do we create a healthy set of meanings that allow us to choose, right? And of course, part of what we do is we give them a new vocabulary. The second problem that oftentimes our clients have is when they're looking at their story, and let's say they're struggling with a money story, oftentimes they don't know what meanings to clear, right? How do I clear my money story? What's at the root of my money story? Well, if you're going to get to the root of the story, if you're going to clear the meanings in the story and take back control over that choosing power, then you have to know who you're designed to be. You have to understand those archetypes and how those archetypes play out, the part that they play in your soul curriculum, in order to know how you create and what you truly want. Now, think about that for a minute. A lot of times when our clients come to us and they're hurting and they've been trying everything and it's not working, part of what's going on is that they're actually trying to create something they don't want in a way that's not right for them. They have not actually taken back control of that story. And so they're kind of stuck in this tape loop of situational creativity instead of fundamental creativity. And they're thinking they're stuck and they're blocked and they're broken, and they're not. They just haven't tackled that problem of figuring out which archetypes do I need to clear, which parts of my story need to be deconditioned so that they can create a different point of attraction. This is what you learn to do as a quantum human design specialist. You learn to help people break down the parts of their story and really explore those archetypes and give them back the power, the capacity to take back control over those parts of the story and redefine the story that they tell about who they are internally and externally in a way that they choose. They get to decide what story works for me. What parts of my story do I want to keep? What parts of my story do I want to expand on? You give them sovereignty over their story so they can decondition and begin to learn how to consciously choose, how to heal their fundamental creativity, how to reconnect them back with their authentic, natural, innate creative power. Now, one of the things that we teach in the Quantum Human Design School that nobody else teaches is we teach what I call the 9 resiliency keys. So over time, as I studied human design, and for those of you who don't know, my original background in nursing is actually in child development. So I was a child development specialist. I then became a family coach, and I was actually I am the creator of the very first family coach certification training. I actually teach also a quantum human design family coach certification training. So as I was looking at and thinking about and exploring the question, well, how do you use human design? How do we use this? Not just what is it and let's do readings, but how do we use it? I really started to think about what I was seeing in my clients, how I was experiencing my clients being stuck, what it looked like, what it sounded like, where it was coming from. And I really was thinking about this in the context of human design. And I decided I'm going to take this whole chart and kind of put it in a metaphorical blender. I didn't literally blend it, but I put it in a metaphorical blender. And I mixed into this blender child development theory. And I mixed into this blender adult developmental theory and developmental challenges, plus life cycle analysis and astrology. And I blended it all up. And what I found is when I started looking at the relationship between all the parts of the chart and the parts of the chart and the core developmental themes that we all go through, and what happens to us when we don't master those developmental themes, what happens when we don't learn to feel loved, what and be lovable, what happens when we don't learn to value ourselves, what happens when we get disconnected from our power. I started to realize that at the root of the root of the root of all the parts in the human design chart, there are 9 base archetypes. And those 9 base archetypes have to be functioning at the highest level for somebody to bring out the full potential of the chart. When you live in alignment with those 9 base archetypes, that's when you learn how to create choice. That's when you reactivate your creative power. So these 9 resiliency keys, and we work with these in the quantum human design training. These 9 resiliency keys are 9 core aspects that are at the root of healing, maturity, health, and resiliency. They have to function at the highest level to get out of struggle in the chart. As I said, they are the root of most pain and trauma. And oftentimes what we see with our clients is these create protective identities that can oftentimes be the root of self-sabotage. And those protective identities are keeping us oftentimes from getting re-injured, right? Re-triggered. So here are the 9 resiliency keys. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. And as I'm going through them, I invite you just to really explore these questions and feel them inside of yourself and feel them with non-judgment. Just feel them with curiosity. If something comes up for you and you're like, whoa, I'm really low on that one, don't beat yourself up about it. Just be sweet with yourself, be generous with yourself, and know that with time and with practice and with learning how to rewrite your story, you can clear and elevate the expression of these 9 core archetypes in your own life. So the first resiliency key is lovability. Can you be loved and accepted for who you are? The second resiliency key is empowerment. Do you feel like you have control over your life? The next resiliency key is courage. Does fear keep you from fulfilling your joy? The next resiliency key is decisiveness. Do you know how to choose what's right for you? The next resiliency key is emotional wisdom. If you have an open emotional solar plexus, that's about really getting honest about, do you compromise what you want to keep other people happy? If you have a defined solar plexus, this is about recognizing when emotional energy maybe keeps you from acting deliberately, or another way of saying that is when it makes you react, right? Do you trust yourself? Self-trust is another one. Do you trust yourself? Vitality is the next one. Are you fully expressing your vitality and your energy? In other words, are you burned out? This is often the big one that people show up with. So if you're burned out, you're not usually accessing your full vitality and energy. Authenticity is the freedom and the safety to be who you really are. And self-worth, last but not least, is a deep connection and understanding of your value. Do you know how valuable you are? So when we teach the resiliency keys, we kind of arrange them in this order. At the root of the root is self-worth and lovability. There are many key elements in the chart that relate to lovability and self-worth. And at the top of this pyramid, we have vitality, meaning you don't love yourself and you don't value yourself. If you're telling a story that isn't authentic, that doesn't involve self-trust, that is not emotionally wise, that's not empowered, that's not decisive, that's not courageous, you will eventually burn out because you'll spend a lot of energy trying to protect yourself. So I've given you a lot of stuff to think about today. So let's talk now about what do you need to do to become a certified quantum human design specialist. So we give you the training and the support that you need to start to grow your quantum human design practice. Or as I said, if you're just really, really, really curious about your own journey with human design, sometimes our students just want to learn more about their own chart. This is also a really great path for you to really go deep in exploring your own story. I have a series of trainings where I give you everything you need to get a deep understanding of not only traditional human design, but also quantum human design, so that you can begin to learn not just what is human design, but how do we use human design. These trainings are online, self-paced. So each level comes with a series of instructional videos, slides, study questions, additional student resources that you can complete in your own time and at your own pace. And I will tell you, I have had people who have completed the program over the course of many years. We recently had somebody complete the entire program in what, 4 weeks? Is it 4 weeks that Tara finished it? Hannah?
Yes, yeah.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So it's really up to you is bottom line. How long or how little do you want to make this last for yourself? So, but it's self-paced. You get to do it in whatever way works for you. We have included with our training a very active, thriving community. It's actually the thing I'm the most proud of in our training program. So we have live forums. So on Mondays, we have live forums as well as an online community where you can come and get any questions that you have about your studies answered by me. I'm there once a week answering questions. We also have an online forum where people and students connect, and our students connect in the most beautiful way. So we give, you can attend our live virtual forum to ask questions. You can pre-submit questions if you can't be there live. You have 24 access to our exclusive online community. And of course, just lots and lots of different ways for you to get live interaction and get your questions answered so that you're not sitting there by yourself trying to figure something out. No, I'm not that good at taking online courses. I have to have this live piece for me to integrate it. I'm a fourth line profile. I need people to learn. And some of you really need both. You need to have that freedom of that self-paced learning, but you also need to have that live contact so that you're not just doing it all in your head. We also have, as part of our community, Hannah leads this, our monthly chart chat live. This is a space that serves as a skill building session for you so that you actually get practice. So you're not just looking at charts, you actually get practice to become more familiar and comfortable with reading charts. I found that a lot of my students need that because otherwise the fear that they don't know enough or the fear that they're not going to get it right because they haven't enough practice holds them back from really starting their business. So this gets you all the training wheels that you need so that you can build your confidence and experience the wisdom that lives inside of you. And this is the fun part too, connect with our greater community. So Daniel Wang, who's one of our students, says this. He says, "This is such an amazing community. And I'm so grateful to have discovered it and be a part of it. The support and the amount of resources is staggering in a great way. I so appreciate the attentiveness of the whole process on every level. And I'm grateful to Karen for the work that she has been devoted to for over 2 decades now. And I feel privileged to receive the blessings of all the hard and passionate work over the years along with the whole team. Simply a wonderful journey that's getting better with every step." We have included with our training a huge list of resources that you get. So this is just a screenshot from our student resource center. So you get information about how to get your business started, information about chart software, information about which software do you maybe want to use as part of your business. We have a social media guide, a website services and inclusions. We have a client first contact flow, intake forms, a level 1 reading template, follow-up survey questions, confidentiality and liability samples. We have all kinds of resources for you. So you don't really have to figure things out once you get your training done. You can instantly click into these resources and realize that a lot of the work has already been done for you. You really just have to figure out when are you going to do your first reading. Our certified, here's just another certified specialist is Jackie Kent. Jackie Kent says, "I'm at a loss for words," which is rare, haha. She's thrilled to have obtained my level 1 certification, but I actually cannot even comprehend the amount of support that comes along with it all. I've barely scratched the surface with the library resources and the support that's now available to me to help me continue with this very important work. So you don't just get the training, you get all these resources on the back end when you're done to help you get up and get yourself running. Jasmine Love says, "This program is everything I vibrated to the universe that I wanted and more than I anticipated. I'm confidently doing readings and have an increasing amount of business referrals coming to me with no advertising." And let me tell you, Jasmine, I love Jasmine. She's been a student of mine for a long time. She does not like marketing, but yet the power and the confidence that she has in doing readings and her network of people that she's connected with who keep bringing her referrals She does not have to go out and actively do her business. In fact, she's built her business by just quietly integrating her own knowledge and sharing with people. And they've told people, and they've told people, and they've told people. So you don't even have to do marketing in some cases. That just, and again, I think for Jasmine, especially in students like Jasmine, and you might relate to that, just having that space where you practice enough to feel confident, it made a huge shift in her receptivity to allowing people to find her and hire her. So here's how it works. Quantum Human Design training has 4 levels of certification. I set it up this way so that you could start very quickly getting out into the world doing readings. When I first started doing human design readings, and for many, many, many years doing human design readings, human design was not that popular in the beginning. And so a lot of people did not know about human design, and it was hard. Now it's really a lot easier. I mean, everybody knows human design at this point, just about. I mean, even they wrote about it in the Washington Post this year and said that human designers are replacing the Enneagram. I don't actually agree with that, but I just think it speaks to the popularity of it. So you can start doing readings pretty quickly on in your training. So the learning experience looks like this. You have an online self-paced learning. Each level has a series of instructional videos, slides, study questions, and additional student resources you can complete in your own time at your own pace. We have, as I said, live forums and online community. You get questions, and you get the opportunity to ask questions, get answers every week. You can earn while you learn, meaning after you certify in level 1, you can begin to use quantum human design in your business. That means you can begin earning money using quantum human design while you continue to study and increase your knowledge. When you're ready, you can dive deeper. Each level goes into more depth, so there's more material to cover as you go. So ultimately, how quickly you move through and certify in each level is up to you. And like I said, we just had somebody complete it in less than 4 weeks. And I've had students that take years, and it's totally up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do it, just your way. You can complete your certification with level 4. So levels 1 through 3 are self-paced training. Level 4 is live. So we teach level 4 live every year via Zoom starting in October. Level 4 teaches you the art of chart reading. So in level 1, 2, and 3, you learn the mechanics. And level 4, we start to look at, okay, how do we use human design? How do we actually use it as a tool to help people change their story and regain their connection to their innate creative power? Here's the thing that I want to share with you. You're not just healing yourself. When you decondition yourself and you move yourself back into sync with your innate creative power, you're living in a high vibrational state. Vibrations are contagious. You're literally changing the vibrational energy around you simply by walking through the room. You become influential. Your birthright is the full engagement and joy that allows you to evolve by learning from and leaving the past behind. By consciously and consistently expressing your authentic potential and making your unique contribution to the world, taking your direction from spirit, being physically vital, having all the resources you need to fulfill your destiny, and taking actions that are only for the greater good of the world. That's your birthright. That's who you were born to be. In other words, you were born to feel good, being who you are, and doing what you came here to do. By the way, we're also designed to be nice to each other in case we forget. So be yourself. Take this training and remember who you were born to be. And take this training and do the work in the world of helping others remember who they were born to be. Because you being you is the greatest gift that you can give the world, no matter what. And as a quantum human design specialist, you get to help people remember that gift that they were born to fulfill. All right. It has been a joy and a pleasure to be with all of you today. Thank you all for giving me your time and your attention. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your presence. Thank you, Jamie and Hannah behind the scenes, holding it all together. It has been a really great delight to be with you all. Take good care of yourselves. Again, you have until June the 27th to take advantage of the 22% discount. No matter what, thank you for being you. You make the world what it is. The world literally is what it is today because you're in it. And it's a pretty amazing world. So thank you. Bye.